Talking loud in the nighttime air. Voices clash, waiting down to care. Opinions flare like they matter so. But who's right, we'll never know. Microphones like weapons drawn. Swagger in the twilight dawn. Each word iron, each thought steel. To be heard is the final deal. Howling offense in the midnight haze. Everybody's offended, each one sways. We're offended, you're offended, that's the way. Claim the night with the things we say. Truth clash like broken dreams. Voice to voice, let it scream. What's real in this foggy light? Bow hard till the morning light. Feel the hunger of the crowd. Anxious to erupt so loud. Unity in discord side. Witness as their worlds collide. Howling up in the midnight haze. Everybody's offended, each one's raised. We're offended, you're offended, that's the way. Claim the night with the things we say. Truths clash like broken dreams. Raise your voice, let it scream. What's real in this foggy light? Battle hard till the morning light. Feel the hunger of the crowd. Anxious to erupt so loud. Unity in discord's tide. Witness as their worlds collide. Howling offense in the midnight haze. Everybody's offended, each one's raised. We're offended, you're offended, that's the way. Claim the night with the things we say. We say. We say. We say. Voice we say. Voice we say.
Yes, my mother twitted my fucking tipples!
How can we dance when our earth is turning?
They don't produce anything. They don't do anything.
How do we sleep when our beds are burning? How can we dance when our earth is turning?
Oh,
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to We're Offended, You're Offended. I'm Kim. This is Tyler, and this is our very special guest returning, Payman Ascari. Welcome to everybody who is new here. Hi, hello, welcome. Don't forget to hit the little subscribe button down below. And just thank you for clicking on the little button to come sit with us and listen to the crazy news going on in the world this week.
All right, I guess we will get into, of course, the post-mortem of the election. Payman Ascari was a candidate for the PPC. So we'll go over that. We'll talk PPC, Canada, the Conservatives, Liberals, everything. We'll also be touching on this election seemed to trigger something in Western Canada. Like, there was always the discussion of separation. Now it seems like it's the forefront thought in everyone's minds. And was this the election that finally ripped Canada apart? So we'll get into that. But before we do, Payman, who the hell are you?
I'm just one really exhausted guy.
I could only imagine. When I was like following you, I was following Jason Levine and a couple other PPC guys. And I'll say this, messaging is very effective. Like during all the the campaigning and everything else, it slipped into my mind at one point, and then I caught myself. Holy shit, are the PPC actually going to win? It slipped into my mind. But then I thought, no, we have to keep it realistic. We have to like actually like take a step back and where things are going. But like like for me, I seen the power of messaging, of the photos of being out there meeting people, that like it creates this groundswell of like, okay, I can get behind that. Like, you don't want to be the one guy dancing, at a dance thing, one of those called ball at the ball. You don't want to be the only one. You want a group of people to go with you, so you don't feel like you're the only man on top of the hill, or the only person looking like an idiot in my case. But so okay, so I guess I'll pull this up. The election results, and then I think even last night they had changed some ridings, but now we are sitting at the bloc at 22 seats, Conservatives 144, Liberals at 169, NDP at 7. That's where we are looking right now. Why do we have this? For those that can't really see, why do we have that in Canada? We already have
Right.
one. It's right there. It just won.
It's a very good
You,
question.
you could highlight the Communist Party, the Green Party, the NDP Party, and the Liberal Party. They're all different flavors of the same, collectivist mindset.
Very much. And as we were talking in the background, we are starting to see kind of conservatives take that same kind of lean. This kind of collectivist idea, this tone policing. I don't know. I don't know where the conservatives have gone. I really don't. But I guess from your perspective, how do you think the campaign went? Like, was it what you expected? Were you expecting more, or was it within like your realistic expectations? I guess I should say.
So I also thought that the PPC could pick up a few seats. At the first debate, I realized I wasn't going to win. Like, my writing was too liberal, but I was hoping on Jason Levine. I was hoping that he could lean into his support base in his riding. Also, Michael Bader, Peter Terrace, maybe Wayne Baker. As it went on, even until the end, I was hoping at least Jason Levine could get 20%. Now, I'll get to why that didn't happen. Can I take a few minutes to paint a story?
Go for it.
Absolutely.
So June 2016, we have Brexit. And then immediately afterwards, you have a channel separating the bankers in the City of London from the bureaucrats in Brussels. They overreact. They panic. They move to disqualify both populist leaders in the US election, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump. They managed to get Bernie Sanders out. Donald Trump gets in. Immediately, they're like, we got to unelect this guy. July 2020, they go to Zuckerberg. They pressure him to adopt censorship. All the other social media companies do that. And Donald Trump is removed in November. And somewhere along the way, we kind of realized that there's two versions of these two ideas overloaded onto the same word, democracy. You have the plebiscite, 51% majority, and then this other concept, other people have mentioned this. Once upon a time, you had these institutions that were born out of democracy, and now promotion of those institutions is what constitutes democracy. I'm talking about these ministry of silly walks like Islamophobia, gender studies, climate change. It's no longer about the will of the people electing someone. It's about promoting those things. So whatever, a couple of things happen. Donald Trump gets back in, and the City of London, they parachute Mark Carney in. Mark Carney, in my opinion, Mark Carney's only job is to just delay Donald Trump until they can figure out what to do with him. Maybe he'll run out his term. This tariff war happens, and the tariff war, they announced this last year in November. It was Trump's financial plan, and it's a two-pronged strategy. First, he's got to take back control of the U.S. money supply from the City of London to the U.S., and they did that. That's the LIBOR-SOFR debate. If you can devalue the U.S. currency, you can make your exports more appealing, so onshore industry. The second thing is tariffs. If you can increase the cost of imports, you make them less appealing, onshoring.
Mm-hmm.
And the Liberals kind of picked that up and they ran with that. And they said, Donald, orange man bad. And I was in the room and these boomers just ate it up. Most of these flags that popped up overnight, you know how they took the Ukraine flag down and they put the Canada flag? It was most these baby boomers who, they do love their country. but like they have this belief that they built this I think they inherited it from their parents, the World War II generation.
100% they
In
did.
this country. Yeah, and they panicked, and so that tariff scare, that was brilliant what the liberals did. So they put pressure to lock down from their end. The conservatives, they had no answer to this, so they reacted to this by saying, "Don't split the vote." Like they were trying to lock it down from their end to crush the PPC. What they didn't realize is that the NDP was hearing what they were saying, and they're like, "All right, fine, we won't split the vote either. We're already shit scared of Donald Trump." So the NDP ran to the Liberal Party. That's why they lost. It's not really the PPC. Like as you can see, like we got just destroyed. So it wasn't the PPC that split the vote. It was the NDP that didn't split the vote. And now it's become abundantly clear that Canada, we have a serious problem in this country, and it's called liberalism. We have far too many liberals. And I'll stop there.
Well, and so yeah, like okay, so I'll say this: there was the liberal minority and then an NDP kicker coalition. What's on like I'm looking at this election? What's the difference? It's just the liberals folded, they caved to the liberal to try and get them, and they're only 3 seats away. I'm sure there's some little red wagons hiding in someone's closet that they forgot to turn in to a recount or whatever, that they'll the hockey stick will rear its ugly head once again. In fact, no, it did rear its head in our election. But anyways, so I think conservatives, especially on X, and I've said this time and time and time again, this is a micro community of a micro community already. Not everyone is online. Conservative in Canada should be a majority, but it's not. It's the minority group within Canada. Now on X, that's even a smaller minority. There's not all of Canada is not on X. Not all of Canada is even online. And I mean, like, looking at articles online specifically, most people still get their news from terrestrial radio.
Well,
terrestrial
the older
television.
generation, like our parents, they're not ones to be online looking up news and stuff like that. It's that generation.
Yeah, they're very much well, I heard that on CNN. I know what
News,
that's about. It's like, well, yeah, but there's this. This was left out. They didn't. Oh, did they talk about this? Like, how many times have I talked with older people or just people in general where you can see where their news source comes from, and I'm not talking to like the person. I'm now talking to the news. Like, you can see the news talking points coming out, and I'm talking to them as though I'm you know what I'm trying to say? It's like I'm not talking to Payman. I'm talking to Payman who's reciting the CBC.
They've been brainwashed. It's very difficult, and I ran into this problem. So I was principally operating on social media, X, and on X, yes, there's a lot of crazy people, but it's long format. Like the three of us right now, we're talking about the issues. You walk into that debate stage, they've already spent the last 3 years and 11 months doing that through CBC. They're not there to hear about what the problems are. They're there to see who best agrees with what they already have made up their mind to be. And that's the problem. Like we need to spend the next 4 years, I guess, reprogramming, re-educating them. I don't know.
Well, and I think like the whole idea of a debate is like the two debaters or whoever's on the stage, they're not trying to convince each other. They're trying to convince the audience. And that's, as you said, that's exactly what CBC has done. They've had a faux debate where they have Jason Kenney debating Rosemary Barton or whoever he was on that panel with. It's like, yeah, there's two sides of the same coin. Like, really, let's be real here. I hold a lot of fault. Like in Manitoba, when Manitoba flipped from conservative to NDP, I said 100%. I get it. I'd be pissed at the conservatives too if they did what they did, where they held a lottery, where Brian Pallister famously said, or infamously, when asked, where's the money for this COVID lottery coming from? He says, ask your 2-year-old. We borrowed against your children's future in order to fund this. Like for me, I said, no, you know what? I get it. I get why the NDP won, because fuck the conservatives in the best way possible. Like that's the type of stuff that pissed me off And
Oh
I
yeah.
understand federal is different than provincial, but they're kissing cousins. So,
Gross.
well, they are. But so you see these types of things that got, like I said, shooting fish in a barrel, criticize what the CPC did, and people have a visceral reaction. It's like you're attacking themselves. And I think you would agree that everyone that was criticizing Pierre, criticizing the CPC, was saying, you guys should be so much more popular. Everyone loved when Pierre was doing X, Y, and Z. That is what Canadians, your base, is sick of. That's what we want to see. We want to see Pierre throwing the papers during the Wii scandal, saying, "Look at this bullshit. Look at the corruption. Look at how much you guys are getting screwed over. Look at how much
Afuela.
how little opportunity is happening, or lack of opportunity that's happening." That's what the PPC bros who wanted to tarnish and destroy Pierre. Now, Max, you know what? I can see the argument where people say, "Sorry, I'll shut up. I'll wait." What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think these are conservatives. Like, I think they're paid bots or activists, apparatchiks of the Conservative Party. I put out a post on social media. If it reaches a certain number of impressions, if it's even borderline critical of the Conservative Party, and it reaches 1,000 impressions, I start getting attacked, like in coordination, synchronized attack from like 3, 4, 5 people that look like they're Conservative Party supporters. And it's always crude attacks. Max has a home in Florida. You're a racist party. Oh my God, you've let too many people, too many people from outside the country to run in your party. I think it's the, I don't know if you guys know the word Warren Kinsella, who he is. He
Yep.
attacked the People's Party back in 2019. I think it's the
He
same
blocked us
thing.
because I criticized him, and I can't. I think it was during his COVID where he said
He's
that
a
we should.
lunatic. He's a psychopath, like Carney. He's an absolute psychotic lunatic. Operation Cactus. I think this was an operation, and what it does is it attacks the People's Party, and the People's Party reacts by attacking actual Conservative Party supporters. And then you get, I'm not going to say the names, but you get very, very simple-minded online social media influencers and podcasters, not you guys, people who are not deep thinkers, and they buy
Yeah.
into this. And then you get the phrase PPC bros. They're like, oh, these PPC bros, they're all crazy. They're just controlled alternative media.
And it does bother me, like when I had said back in I want to say it was December, because I kept seeing Pierre kind of like, kind of faltering in his messaging, where he toned it down hardcore. And I think that's what people are sick of. Like the right. Hey, and I've said time and time again, I'm not a conservative. I'm looking for someone to say,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? I think having men in girls' changing rooms, and we've seen the instances of sexual assault, and they're going, well, we don't want to talk about that. Which, okay, some people don't. And for me, as like
You
a
need to.
as a basic, like, boomer normal person, like I'm a normie. I don't the WEF, all the globalist stuff, like that's, most people have no idea about that. And that's what I mean about a microcosm, or a micro community already within a micro community. Because most people, you say, well, yeah, well, Jeff fucking Mark Carney, he's part of WEF and Davos, and they're planning this and this, and most people are like, what? I'm just trying to get my kids to soccer practice. I'm just trying to find
Yeah.
out why everything costs so much. And I actually had a discussion with a friend of mine. And so he had gone to Ottawa, and they had a bunch of like surgeons and stuff in Ottawa. And he said in like the maritime provinces, they ate the CBC stuff, the CTV of, it was the conservatives. Carney is a fresh face. Carney is finally the opportunity for the liberals to operate. And they said it with a straight face. So this is what people don't understand when people are attacking, let's say, people who might ideologically, or at least, can kind of, hey, you know what? I like that he's doing that. For Pierre, when we go, you guys don't get it. You're not seeing it. You're terminally online. You don't see that. There are other people who view what you see in the inverse.
Yeah.
Like, they see the problem, but they say liberals are the solution. Finally, they're out from the under the thumb of Justin Trudeau and the conservatives from a decade ago. Like, I get it's dumb, but that's what the people are
I'll
believing.
I'll give you a concrete example. In the debate stage, I was listening to the Green Party candidate and the NDP candidate, and they were talking about how, we're giving too much subsidies to the oil and gas industry. I stepped in. I was like, well, all subsidies are bad. Stop giving it to oil and gas. Stop giving it to green industries. Stop giving it to CBC. But like we see the same problems, like housing. So housing is a problem. People can't afford it. What my solution to housing is, get rid of the financialization of the economy, stop printing money and speculating on housing. Their solution is no, the government's got to come in and put rent caps. So their solution is more government. My solution is less government. We're seeing the same problem.
Well, and one thing that people don't understand, or that I think they don't really realize, the US in 2008 had a crash. They crashed.
Yes, you're right.
Their whole property market tanked. So they had as they say in financial terms, they had a correction in the market because it was going up, 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 and then it went boom, dropped. Look at Canada's housing market. It didn't do that. We're still living in an artificial bubble. We didn't have the correction in the market where house prices, where a condemned house in downtown Vancouver is $1 million plus, 1.5 million for a condemned house.
If I can jump in, Tyler. Yes, Kim, it's ridiculous. You and I understand this. Kim understands this. We have the mental capacity. We've been in this world. We know it. You walk into that debate stage, they don't understand that. They don't understand that it's a bubble. All they know is, as you mentioned, it's expensive. Which party is going to most quickly make it less expensive? Oh, the NDP says they're going to put a rent cap. Great. Like they're going to give me 15% off my GST. Great. I'll work on that. Because to them, there's an infinite money somewhere, and that somewhere is the tax space or the printing press.
Yeah, and I've always said, like, Canadians, for whatever reason, have this. I think I was very disillusioned by it once I started traveling to the States quite a bit, and I noticed, especially during COVID, Canadians are very passive aggressive. They're very arrogant and very spiteful, unfortunately. And this moniker or this mythos that Canadians are polite. Yeah, we're polite to your face, and then we stab you in the fucking.
Yeah, but we're not polite to people's face anymore. We're getting really nasty.
Yeah. Since COVID, 100%. That shit switched. I don't look at Canada as friendly Canada anymore. There's no.
And I actually noticed, even traveling in the States, the vast majority of my interactions, I should say all. I can't think of one interaction where someone was rude or condescending or opinionated, needed to share something with me. One guy did, and actually me and him actually sat down and had a conversation. Like, no joke. We sat down and had a conversation. And he's like, by the end of it, he's like, you know what, man? Yeah, I think you're right. You're right. Don't worry about it. That was it. That was the only bad interaction. But how many times did you see people, unfortunately, hold government as the solution, as you said, to everything, and we're so willing to turn on everyone? We are seeing that the PPC, the CPC, I get it. It hurts. It hurts to lose. I get it. And you're looking for, well, what's the solution? Well, if only this happened. And I always, as the phrase goes, whenever you point at someone, there's three fingers pointing back at you. What did Pierre do to lose this election? It was his to win. That's my question. Why did he not campaign on what people were asking for? Why not?
I mean, I don't want to be too critical of the Conservative Party. It's not my party. We kind of already know, that it's just been proven that this, drifting to the left to pick up leftist voters, everyone told them, that's not a good strategy. Though if they're leftist, they're just going to go with the more left party, Liberals or NDP or Greens. And and the Liberal Party was brilliant. They saw this and they said, all right, what are his twin pillars of his campaign? Get Trudeau out, get rid of the carbon tax. Well, why don't we do that ourselves? And we'll take credit for it. And Carney said that at the debate. He goes, I don't know how many times I have to tell you this. Neither Mr. Trudeau nor the carbon tax are there anymore.
Exactly. And this is, I think I think after like December, when I seen like Pierre just kind of like flip flopping the pandering and everything else, when I finally said, you know what, I'm done. I'm done with the conservatives, and I deleted everything. I went through our whole timeline, everything that said Pierre, the CPC. I deleted everything,
Oh yeah,
but
he was crazy about it.
I just, you know what, I'm done saying nice things because or just anything in general. I'm no longer interested in that party. I'm not.
Do
I'm looking
you
for actual solutions.
do you want to shift over to criticizing the PPC, the party that I am a part of?
Sure. We absolutely can. So like
Yeah.
what I was initially going to say was like the arguments that I can see when people are saying Max has an axe to grind with the CPC. I can see it 100%. 100% I could and it's, you know what, I kind of would too if I put 10, 15 years into something and then the only reason I got booted is um because of private corporations pushing him out. Like I'd have a bit of an axe to grind too when I'm saying, or you know, I can only say like what I've heard, that he was pushed out by the dairy industry. That's what I was told. So I don't see anything to the contrary. Um what I don't, I think that that's the biggest criticism I think that everyone puts on the PPC is that you're only here to attack the conservatives. You guys are paid liberals in order to discredit the conservatives. And only reason I actually voted for the PPC was I'm tired of the race baiting stuff. I'm tired of the sexualization of children. I'm tired of having X, Y, and Z ideology shoved into my face repeatedly and saying that I'm a homophobe, I'm a xenophobe, I'm this, I'm every phobe and fitist, sorry, retarded, in the world for simply saying I don't like that. Just I don't like that. Not that I want these people dead, not that I think that they should be hung off the tallest buildings as a statement. Just no, can we maybe just leave kids alone? Can we
Yeah.
maybe get back to a position where, you know, someone who's trying to create a life for themselves, and this is the big one. Everyone's so focused on Galen Weston and these corporations. I don't really care what Galen Weston does with his money. I have a bigger, real big issue when our government is funding these very same ideas that criminalize trying to be successful within Canada. We don't foster that.
It's a lot in there. Let's
Sorry.
go. It's okay. Let's go with Max. I've met him. He's not a spiteful person. It's very difficult to carry a grudge over multiple years. Like if you've ever gone through an acrimonious divorce or breakup, maybe 9 months, 12 months, a year and a half, not 5 years.
Mhm.
I agree. Like I realize this now. The strategy should never have been attacking the Conservative Party. It should have been attacking the NDP Liberal coalition as the source of all of our pain. The way where I failed is I attacked wherever I saw the problem. So if the Conservatives did something, I'd attack them. The Liberals attacked them. The NDP attacked them. I should have focused all my efforts on Liberal NDP. I've never done a campaign before, so that's one thing I'll say. Other areas where the People's Party, I think we were weak was on messaging. We didn't have a ground game. First of all, like you need 4 years to go out there and tell people, this is how climate change works. But we just parachuted these candidates in, dropped them into a meat grinder, and you're not going to win that battle when everybody thinks that climate change is because of CO2, because of trillion-dollar media industry.
Right.
The last thing I think you were talking about, like what's going on in Canada with the media. We have state media in Canada. People don't understand. When you live in Canada, you have no idea what's going on in the other outside of the world. But nowhere else in the world is it as bad as Canada, except for even Islamic Republic of Iran. Like their control of state media is very crude compared to ours. Like they control CBC. They're spending billions of dollars on CBC and all the other news agencies. Bill C-18 made it so that you can't share news on Facebook. So Facebook it lost all credibility. Like you have no primary source of information. It's just people bickering. They have completely locked this down, and we're no longer doing politics. This is like a military grade counterinsurgency operation.
It does seem like that. And like I think that's a fair question. Like, well, what did the CPC or the PPC, sorry, do wrong? Again, I can understand the arguments where people are saying, well, you know, even as you said, the focusing on the conservatives, but I like I'm more of a, hey, these are the ideas that I'm pushing. This is what the other guys are pushing. That's more or less how I see it. Like the conservatives couldn't even take a stance on whether there's two sexes. Like that's basic stuff. You could not take a stance on that. And you know, I'm an idiot. Obviously I'm not a marketing genius. We'd be 10 gajillion times bigger maybe if I was. But I even said, even if we knew, or that, let's say if the conservatives did win, I know it's supposed to be criticized as a PPC, but you know, even if you knew, let's say if the conservatives did get elected, and you knew that your stuff was going to die in the Senate, why would you not just make the big ask? Like, why not just take those stances of, you know what, we need to get rid of income tax? That's a libertarian position. That's left. That's not a right-wing position.
I can answer that.
Please.
A lot of the people, and I'm going to get heat for this, but a lot of the people that are in the People's Party right now that are running headquarters, they're holdovers from the Conservative Party. And they just the way that they think we should do campaigning is just knock on more doors, do more fundraising, don't upset the apple cart. So if we have that problem in the PPC, you know, like they have that problem 100 times worse at the Conservative Party. And these people, these political parties, they're like a microcosm of what's happening in government. They have a guaranteed salary. They have power. They don't want to let somebody better than them, younger than them, more ambitious than them to get in and take away that power. So it's almost like a cancer, and it takes time to get these people out. The Conservative Party, the reason I didn't join them is because the cancer is so pervasive. I don't know how long it's going to take them to clean house there.
Yeah. Well, and I'll agree that, you know, the PPC, they didn't have a person in every single riding. One criticism that I had was, how do I not have a lawn sign? How could I not get a lawn sign? Like, that's the most basic of stuff. So when people say like, oh, Max is in it for himself, and it kind of, maybe this is just like a big con. I don't know. Like, I don't know him personally. We've had him on, and he's, you know, very forthcoming. He didn't hide anything, but that gives credence to those arguments where I can't even get a lawn sign.
You know, I like Max. I talked to him the other day. I think headquarters screwed Max over, and they threw him under a bus because he's out there busting his hump. Like, he's going on all these podcasts. He's touring the world. Every day was a different part of the country. And the headquarters can't get its act together to get you a lawn sign, you know? And it reflects badly on Max. So the reason that you couldn't get a lawn sign is because there's 343 MPs, candidates, whatever, and every MP represents a riding. That riding has an office to represent the party. It's called an association, let's call it. Our associations, they're not really in place. This is the responsibility of headquarters. They should have done this in 2019. And for whatever reason, they didn't. I think we only have 36 associations, and the associations are not really well manned. And there's not enough communication with headquarters. And when there's not enough communication, people get frustrated. They're like, you know what? I'm a volunteer. I'm not going to run this association. I love getting Tyler at lawn sign, but not when headquarters doesn't respond to my emails. So they leave. And when they leave, the association, Elections Canada, shuts down that association. So somebody else has to come in and understand, you know, the paperwork, get the bank account, get the accountant.
Right.
And that's the problem that we have. That's why you're not getting a lawn sign.
See,
Well,
and
that's
I
kind of
think
bullshit. I feel like there needs to be some revamping in the headquarters. Like, that's not fair that people are, you have candidates that are going out there and they're busting their asses off, and
Yeah.
headquarters isn't doing
And no
anything to
So
support.
help them. They're literally like holding them back. That's
so let
not
me just
right.
also add. I was simplifying it there, so it's not just that they're not responding to the email, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Like there needs to be some sort of accountability is the word I'm looking for. If this was a private corporation and
Mhm.
you lost 700,000 voters, that's 7/8 of your previous amount. Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. If this was a private corporation, you would get the next day, Tuesday morning, you would have gotten your pink slip. We should have the right to unelect any official. I think America is the best country on earth. I'm just going to say it. If you're a liberal, don't cover your ears. Best country in the worst world, best electoral system. We need the primary. It's even better than the proportional representation, in my opinion. And they have the ability to elect their national executive. So if you remember
Mhm.
Rhonda McDaniels, they voted her in, and then they voted her out. You hold a primary, and the way you do that is the associations should have that right to call an election. We're talking about a constitution now, and again, I have nothing but respect for Max. The problem people need to understand, it's not Max. We already have a mechanism for removing Max, and he's honored that, and he's stated multiple times every general election they're going to hold a vote, and if 51% don't agree with Max, he'll step down. The problem is not Max. To me, the problem is headquarters, and many of the candidates are really frustrated. Like, I don't know what my future is going to be with the party. They might actually just kick me out, but we'll see.
Well, and that was one thing, like I agreed with conservatives on where it just came out. I don't remember the individual. I wish I should have had the video pulled up. Like just thinking about it, where he said that an individual had said um, that CPC Communications intentionally was hiding Pierre, didn't want him on podcasts, was failing in the messaging, like they were doing all these things to hold him back. While yeah, he went on Jordan Peterson. Okay, well, the same criticism that people are saying that, well, Pierre or Maxime went on, Alex Jones and went on PBD and fucking went on ours and like all of this. Well, mind you, we're Canadian, but like these big Tucker Carlson, like all of this type of stuff. And well, Pierre just did Jordan Peterson. Like that was it. And one other one. Why would you not be out there like
So let's come to the defense of Mr. Polyev now. I got the sense that he's aged so much in the last 2 years, and I think it's the stress, and I
Right.
think the stress is because the board, whatever, presumably there's a board that runs the Conservative Party.
Mhm.
I think they were really disrespecting him and telling him you can do this, don't do that, shut up, sit down, don't go on to the show, and there's this struggle within the Conservative Party. This is what I'm worried about. I've been screaming about this at the People's Party for 1 year now, exactly 1 year. May last year I started. I said, the People's Party is very fragile. We're very small, and we only have like a 3 to 6 month window to capitalize on new ideas before the Conservative Party steals them from us. So now that the Pierre Poilievre has failed, maybe not because of his own incompetence, but because of the incompetence of the party, they're going to reform. And if the Conservative Party reforms and it gets its act together and it starts, rather than just name calling the PPC and discrediting us, if they just say, you know what, let's just change our business model to make the PPC irrelevant, we could cease to exist. Like that's actually my fear, that the Conservative Party gets its act together and starts going on podcasts.
well, and for those like that don't know, when you run to be an MP, at least for the conservatives, you have to have a treasury or a treasurer. You have to see like someone in charge of all the money. You have to have I want to say a director, but that's not the right word. But you have to have someone that's kind of in charge of the office. You have to have staff. Like I can't remember how many staff people you have to have. I want to say 3, but I might be wrong. But you definitely have to have a treasurer. You have to have a separate bank account. I believe it's set up. I want to say that it's set up as a corporation. I don't think it actually is, but it's a separate entity unto itself. Um, so there are a lot of hoops that you have to go through in order, to really, as you said, just to even have this constituency office, you have to be able to man it. And especially during an election, you need those volunteers. You need that ground support for people to, spend a couple hours. And this is what liberals are fantastic at. They are the, I will say, they are the best in the game of ground support. However they get it. It could be through fear, it could be through, bribery or whatever their solution is. They get asses moving. They get feet walking. They're
Well, when
fantastic at it.
when you're a candidate, like, do you have to follow what all these people are telling you to do? Like, if they're saying don't do this, only do this, like, do you actually have to follow that? Like, what happens if you don't?
You do. You get pressured from the party. So some censorship I support. When it comes to talking points, look, when you join a party, you have to move forward in a unified manner. And if you look at the Liberal Party, the reason that they won, every single debate, like I noticed they changed their language and it was coming from headquarters. Donald Trump is threatening our sovereignty. So they do their research and they say this is the most effective, use this phrase. I support that. What I don't support is when they censor you. I'll stop short of giving you concrete examples, but the party can intimidate you. It's this sense of a hierarchy, so they can intimidate you, and they usually do. And in politics, they call it a whip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people don't know that once you kind of join a party, and I'll say for you, like it's not uncommon, and I will give this to the PPC. No one that we've had on has said like, no, don't talk about that. You're not, like, these topics are off. I only say my talking points and that's it. So I'll give that to the PPC for sure. But once you join a party, the thing that I've noticed, you no longer represent your constituents, you represent the party to your constituents. You now have to sell your constituents on the idea of, well, the party's looking at doing this. I now need to convince you, instead of it being the other way around, where the constituents are dictating to our representative. This is what I want to see. And this is another thing that flipped me. Funding in the Ukraine war. I said, I don't want it. I don't want my tax dollars going to blowing up more people. Full stop. Full stop. If Russia wants to do that, I at some point I don't care. I care about the human suffering. I don't care. I don't care that these government bodies are saying we need to further the death. We need more death. We need more of it. And I said, I don't. And he says, well, Tyler, 53% of Canadians are supportive of us increasing funding to Ukraine. I'm like, I'm done. Like,
so the you were talking, it should be the other way around. The constituents tell you what they want. That falls under feedback. Two examples. One, I talked to a woman, she's Ukrainian. She said, I support everything you do, but your immigration platform, it makes it sound like you don't want me. And I bring that up with headquarters. You need a feedback mechanism, right? So that's how you do it. And another one is MAID. I had an older woman who said, I don't think anyone should have to resort to suicide. People have the right to die with dignity. Again, feedback. I get it up to headquarters, and headquarters should respond. They don't change it immediately when I say it, but if enough people say give that position, they should change their stance. Right. The other thing, how do I say this? The problem with political parties, you're supposed to have independents, and the independents are supposed to stand up for their constituents. And we say that. But when you have a political party, you come to a confrontation where what happens when you, as a elected representative or a representative that's supposed to represent your constituents, have a beef with the party? Like, are you allowed to openly criticize that party? If you're not, if there's a sense that you're not supposed to air your dirty laundry in public, well, now you have a conflict. Now you're representing the party and not the constituents. And I've come to realize this in the last few weeks, days, and because the party system, like there has to be. If you look at the U.S., do you remember Matt Gaetz and Laura Bobbitt lady? they ran a campaign against. They ousted their leader. So in the U.S., they
Oh,
have that right to
yeah,
stand up to their leader in a way that we don't in Canada.
yeah. Well, and okay, and
And
so
again,
with
I'm not criticizing Max. In that case, the leader was the leader of the House, not the president.
yeah, yeah. No, I get what you're saying, and so I guess with you saying that, I guess we can just
Hold
this.
on before we move. Okay.
Yes.
So one of viewers, that mofo, had a question asking, did the 100 people on Pierre's ballots have staff? So like you were
Uh,
talking about how all the like if you were to run, you
The
have to have
constituency
staff.
offices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what
I can address that. So elections, it doesn't matter what the party says, but Elections Canada says that every single candidate has to have what's called an official agent. It's an accountant, and the accountant is responsible for whatever it's
That's
doing.
yes,
Accounting.
official agent. Yes, that's
So
it.
so I'm guessing those 100 people that got on that ballot, they all had the same accountant, and everyone needs to get 100 signatures. I guarantee you, they just got all those 100 people in a room. They're like, just please sign for this one guy, this one guy, this one guy, because otherwise it's very difficult for people on their own to get 100 signatures.
what
Yeah,
was the point of that? Like having so many people on that ballot? Like I
that was
don't
a
understand.
communist-led operation. I'm not joking. The party came out, or the group that came out, that they are intentionally inflating to make it confusing. That was their whole idea. It was a communist-led party.
I don't understand either, because it's just as likely that they take votes away from the Liberal or the NDP. So I never understood that.
I don't know.
So
I don't know.
if headquarters is the one that's pretty much like everything has to go
Wait,
up to
hold on.
headquarters.
Wait. Bruce is before Pierre. What if it's that? What if it's literally just that?
I
Like
thought so too,
Fanjoy
but
is
a
like F is
lot of
before
the
P.
Liberal and NDP candidates, they weren't at the top. They were somewhere in the middle. I don't know.
Yeah, like I'm just speculating. I have no idea, but I don't know. Sorry.
So with um with what you're talking about, like everything has to essentially go up to headquarters and they kind of approve things. Who's actually running in the election? Is it headquarters or is it you? Is it Pierre? Like who is actually like who are people voting for? Like it sounds like people are voting for the headquarters, not the actual person.
HQ sorry.
Well,
Payment.
it depends on the party. Like the People's Party, they don't control the candidate. They just don't have the staff and the resources to control us on the ground. So we can say whatever we want. I could talk about chemtrails, like but with the Conservative Party, they have a lot more control. Like if you've noticed, they don't let them go on debates. They don't let them go on podcasts. So they have more control. With the Liberal Party under Trudeau, they even had control of their social media. So if you remember, they came out with the catchphrase "fairness for all generations."
Mhm.
Every candidate blasted that out like perfectly timed, all together at 8 a.m. Monday morning.
Yep.
So they have a lot more control, and they consider it as a product. So if you're selling Coca-Cola, you don't want your local distributors to slap whatever label they want on it and deliver it in packages of 6 or 8 or 7.
Yeah.
You control that.
So with you, we'll move on to this. So with you, because now the big talk now is this. How do I work this thing? It's right from CTV News. Alberta separation, which is unlikely, experts say, as debate bubbles after election. Talk of Alberta separation is bubbling up once again following a Liberal win in Canada's federal election. But despite separatist groups organizing and a small appetite to leave, experts call the chances of a split slim to none. Mark Carney was elected Prime Minister of Canada. His party, which pulled in about 44% of the cross-country vote, will take the minority Ottawa or minority government this spring. A large reason for this win is key victories in Ontario and Quebec. And just like in the 3 previous elections, Canada's red coloring turned into a blue prairie wave as it tracked west, as it always does, because Western Canada does not matter in our elections. Never has, never will.
Bullshit.
So this is now forefront in everyone's minds. Danielle Smith, prior to even the election ending, had said to either party, she said whoever wins, Conservatives or Liberals. She didn't discriminate. She went after both of them. This is what Alberta's looking for. Otherwise, we're going to have a constitutional crisis. And now the swell that is coming around Alberta separating, if not independent, joining the United States. Saskatchewan, Scott Moe just recently came out and said that if there was a vote to separate, he would not stop it.
So I have a lot to say on this. Let's go with the simple stuff first. This is CTV News. Who knows what? Probably everything in there, the opposite is true. Secondly, I'm not going to weigh in on the likelihood of I'm not an expert on this. I don't know if it'll go through. And then a third thing I'll say, just a topical thing. I think Alberta missed the boat. They should have had their Alberta pension plan in place. They should have had a revenue agency in place, and they should have had an Alberta police service in place. That would have helped right now. Now, more broadly speaking, just why we're in this position. There was a green scandal October of last year. I think they shut down Parliament kind of halfway, and then the new year opens up and they prorogue Parliament. So when you prorogue Parliament, I just realized this. I did not expect this, but the legislature is so important because it gives you a window into the activity of your leaders. When they prorogued Parliament, I had no idea what was going on. Like, I barely saw Carney. I think I've only seen him in a few interviews. I have no idea. Like, there's no criticism. There's no feedback. So,
Yes.
so they prorogued it. They parachute this guy in who's got 3 passports. He hasn't lived here. He's a billionaire, and they rigged the election, the leadership race for the Liberal Party. I won't go into details, but they rigged that. So we are in a constitutional crisis, is what I'm saying, and the Liberals winning. It's just moved that crisis from Ottawa to Alberta.
Yeah. And I think with this, and I agree with you that even some supporters of separation have said, Danielle, now is your opportunity. You bungled the whole Alberta pension plan. You bungled it. Now's time to really hammer it. Make the messaging very clear. Alberta was talking about an Alberta police force kicking out the RCMP. That's what they were talking about. So, hey, when we had Rachel Parker on, she said that, well, Danielle Smith won't be the one to lead a separatist movement. She can only lay the groundwork. She would be booted because a person who's going to facilitate this transition would be the one that steps in. It can't be Danielle Smith.
I don't understand that. I don't understand why, but
well, let's say payment is leading in his riding, and I come up with, well, we need to change this. We have all of these things in place. We have all of this stuff that needs to happen. Payment might go, I don't even know where to start. You know what? You guys clearly have a way better understanding of this. I need to bow out.
Okay, but you're saying that as he would then be saying, I need to bow out. But you were saying that Danielle Smith would get booted.
Well, I'm saying booted. She would have to be removed. Like, whether she doesn't run again and someone else steps in to lead.
If I can jump in, I think what Tyler is saying is like a Yeltsin comes in and kicks out a Gorbachev.
Yeah. So it would be the next person with the idea. They would have to lead it. Like, there are people, to even lean on, like, the United States. There was the Republican Party, and then they had to secede to Trump because of his ideas, because of his appeal. They had to. They didn't have a choice. So I think that's what would end up happening in Alberta is someone else comes in and says, like, this is what needs to happen. And they bring in their guys, like the cleaners. Person comes into a corporation when they're bought, and then, well, we need to fire all management because we need to implement our stuff. The old management isn't going to understand. So old management gets out, new management team comes in, and they facilitate the transition.
So I'm not an expert on Alberta, and I'm just going to give you my perception of what's going on. Danielle Smith is navigating the waters as best she can. She's a politician, And
Yeah.
she realizes that you have the rural areas, the countrysides that want separation, and then you have these two cesspools, Edmonton and Calgary, where Edmonton just it's like an NDP stronghold, and
Mhm.
all of the political power I imagine is in those two cities. And do you remember when she got spanked? Was it for Artur Pavlovsky or it was the Coots for like they almost threatened to charge her with obstruction of justice? She's got you got Rick McIver, the Minister of Municipal Affairs. He's dirty. So she's surrounded. She's in a den of vipers, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, and even people I've talked to in private have said that the people surrounding her are liberal. Like they actively work against what she's trying to do. They intentionally make her look bad. So, man, I couldn't imagine like having these people around you who are intentionally screwing you over, doing everything in their power, but still trying to look good. I called this person Worm Tongue, from like Lord of the Rings. Worm Tongue, the guy that leans into not Boromir, oh god, the king of Gondor. Leans into his ear and keeps telling him like all these falsehoods and all this, don't
Oh, yeah.
listen to them. They're liars. They're trying to do this from you. That's what she has. And I could very much see like the issue with trying to navigate this. But do
Yeah.
you see this coming to fruition? Like,
Again, not an expert. Just my view. No, I think she's using this as leverage, and she did this before. She gave a list of demands to Mark Carney. This was before the election. And I think one of them was just impossible to do without a constitutional amendment, like get rid of or change the equalization formula. So what she's doing is using leverage to try to keep Mark Carney at bay. So if you look at Nova Scotia, the premier just bent in the knees, like, I'm not going to work with Pierre, I'm going to work with Carney. She's
yeah,
saying, no, I have leverage. My people are pissed off. I have Donald Trump to the south. I'm going to use this threat of separation to get pipelines and to get, whatever concessions I can get.
yeah. Well, so where, I guess before we leave, I know we got about 10 minutes left.
What
What's
would you do
next?
different? Yeah, exactly. What would you yeah, what's next and what would you do different in the next election?
Um, get the national executive to be elected, not appointed. Establish a clear vision. Tap into the angst of the youth. So, what do the youth want? Constitutional conventions. They
Mhm.
want a constitutional republic. They want to address the housing problem. Then come up with a better training program for the candidates, so that next time when they go election, they're not just getting completely taken out by climate change, truth and reconciliation, 54 billion genders, and you need a way to articulate this. You can't just go in there and say climate change is a hoax, even though we might believe that.
Yeah.
Um, what else? A ground game starting yesterday, but definitely Monday morning. You have to be leaders in the community. I want a national headquarters or associations that hold the candidates accountable. A lot of us just got lazy. If somebody doesn't have their 100 signatures in the next 30 days, get them out. You can't leave it to the last minute.
Right.
What else? Lean into podcasts. I want to build a better. There is a yearning to do politics out there. There are a lot of people that are, I guess you could call them classically liberal, and they want to support the People's Party. There's a couple of things holding them back. Once we fix that, we have to go to them and say, come, yes, we want your money, but you have to have a stake in this party. I will not do this again. I did everything on my own this election. I'm not going to do it. If the Canadian people aren't going to
Right.
support me, if they're not going to be out there with me volunteering, out there with me, at least helping me with my camera work, it's pointless. I can just retire to my farm and live out my days.
Yeah. Ooh, the money laundering farm, right? Just
Yes,
kidding.
yes, yeah.
That's
Email
a little
me and
behind
I'll
the
tell you how to carry out money laundering.
a little behind the scenes action. Yeah, no, I agree. And that was one thing that people like Frank Vaughn have brought up. And I think there's valid criticisms to what the PPC, it needs to hit the ground running. It needs, I don't even like that phrase. I hate that. I'm going to take that back. They need to come out with a big splash. They need I don't, maybe that opportunity has already passed because it's, maybe now it's a little old and stagnant. Like, yeah, you tried. Like, how many times you got to try and fail before you go, maybe this ain't working? Was it maybe,
You know,
hostile takeover? I don't
I
know.
I don't think the time has passed. We got a couple more weeks to reform, but I was looking at a couple of parties. I think it's the United Party of Canada. You got the Libertarian Party, you got the Christian Heritage Party, and the PPC. All of our platforms are the same. Like
Mhm.
these are common sense principles. These are things people know. The people that are standing on the sidelines, like the ones that said, and this pissed me off to no end. They're like, Payman, you're doing great work, and I want to join the People's Party, but this one little thing here isn't right. So I'm not going to lift a finger to fix it. You go ahead and fix it, and when you fix it, you give me a call, and then maybe I'll. It's like when I was in high school, my buddies would be
Oh,
like, "Go to the party, tell me if there's any girls there, and then maybe I'll come." I'm like, "What? No,
yeah.
we're
You,
in this together."
no, you actually, that's it. I think that's exactly it. People in Canada look for government to create the solution instead of them themselves being the change they want to see. Now there are people, I know Yukon Strong has been very vocal that Canada needs a constitutional um we need to become a constitutional republic. This monarchy thing we need to get rid of it. We need to change a lot of this stuff. We don't have a tie to the crown anymore. We've
Let,
been sovereign for a very, very
let's
long
move this
time.
along. I gotta go soon. So
Yeah.
I'll answer that first thing. The woman who's saying Max is living rent free in Frank Vaughn's head. I 100% agree. And he is a highly intelligent man, but
Mhm.
my God, like he's so angry. In the last few weeks, he's gotten better and he's adding some humor to his show. But like I don't understand. I don't know what happened between those two. It's almost like they were dating and then there was a falling out. Um, the
Maybe they were.
crown, Tyler, you asked about. I think you questioned about the crown and the king.
Mhm.
That should be one of the other things in addition to a constitutional convention or republic. We the People's Party has to adopt that, in my opinion. Get rid of the Privy Council. Get rid of the king. Like get him the hell out. Especially now that he's coming to Canada. Like now is the time to capitalize on that. I gotta go soon. Do you want to talk
Yeah.
about the liquidating thing?
Yes. Yeah, we were talking backstage and you were talking about how you had seen the writings on the walls and started
Yeah.
liquidating. So
So
yeah, if you can touch on that a little bit.
I had a this is what we were talking about, money laundering. So I had a house and an apartment in 20, God, I don't know, 2022, 2023. I sold them both. And I sold them at a loss. Now I'm living in I say my mom's basement, but this is our family cottage until Carney comes and takes that from us. And so I took the money that I made from selling those houses, the house and the apartment, and I bought a farm in Florida. And we're capitalizing that farm. It's a sod farm. And whatever money I make from that, I'm going to use for my living expenses here. And the reason I say it's a money laundering operation is because I'm taking tyrannical Canadian dollars, I'm
Mhm.
washing them through the US, and I'm getting Liberty dollars out of that. And I can spend that
Yeah.
with a clean conscience.
Yeah.
It's a joke, but
Yeah,
I'm proud of you. You're doing just
that's
like what Mark
awesome.
Carney does. I'm proud of you.
Ah,
So
and one day maybe I'll run for prime minister one day. But I only have two passports, not three.
dang it. You got to get up on
well,
that though.
this was a lot of fun, Payment.
Yes.
I hope for the whatever comes next. I don't whatever happens with the PPC, but like I'll say for you, like you personally, you've
Rooting
been
for you.
you know more than hospitable and more than willing to be very candid and open and honest with a lot of this stuff. So like I hope like even just personally for you, I hope that everything goes well.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm excited to see where Canada goes from here. And that's a book to be written. I hope it's glorious. I hope it's
I
not like the Star Wars where it fizzles out and turns to shit. I hope it's a roaring back of something amazing.
I I would like to see the underdog come up. I would like to see the PPC literally in one of those top seats going for the next elections. That would be fantastic. I think Canada needs a change. And as much as I was hoping, because the only two options we really had was liberal or conservative, I was hoping for that much of a change. But I think Canada needs a hardcore reset, a hardcore change. And I think the PPC would definitely be one of the ways to go. well,
I
the
think
way to go.
I think it's coming. I have faith in the youth. Like the youth, I look at them. They are to me the new World War II generation. Like they want responsibility. They want freedom, like monetary freedom. They want crypto to be deregulated. If we tap into that, we can save Canada. I know it looks insurmountable because we got these two Goliaths, the Liberals and the Conservatives, but they've mismanaged everything. I think it's about time to just that they crumbled and they went away.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Where can the people find you?
Go to paymentascari.ca.
Yeah.
And online at social media. X is at paymentascari451.
Sounds
Awesome.
perfect. Thank you so much again for coming on. It was a pleasure. We'd love to have you again.
Anytime, day or night, just let me know. Give me a few hours warning. I'll jump back on.
Sounds fantastic.
Awesome. All right, payment. What were you going to say, Kim?
I was just going to say thank you to everybody for taking the time out of your day to come sit with us and listen to the craziness going on in the world this week and sitting with our fantastic guest. All the places, anything we talked about, and his information will be listed in the description box below. We're live every Saturday on Rumble. We'll be back again next week. Have a fantastic week. Take care of one another. We out.
Thank you very much.